Hi, I'm Matt Braun. This is Starting Pitcher Review. We're back at it with the last week of the season, the last week of starting pitchers to talk about. And we have three starts here that are really exciting. Actually, there were quite a few starts I could have chosen. The Twins decided to treat us this last week of the season. Fortunately, they didn't treat us the rest of the season, but that's neither here nor there. And so the first one we're going to talk about here is Zebby Matthews on the 23rd against the Texas Rangers. So first and foremost, this was a heavily battered Rangers lineup. So you kind of have to consider that. Not only when we talk about Zebby, we're going to talk about Taj Bradley for the next pitcher. But also at the same time, you can only pitch to who's in front of you. It's not Zebby's fault that Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and all those guys were injured. They sent out hitters. He faced those hitters, and he did quite well. 7 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 0 walks, 6 Ks. That 1 earned run was one of the first few pitches of the ballgame, I believe. Jock Peterson took him deep to lead off the game, and then nothing the rest of the day. And what was interesting about this start, and what we've kind of seen Zebby do, is oscillate between what he will emphasize as his pitches. His mix has undergone a significant change as the year has gone by. We've seen him integrate the changeup. I believe it's a kick change. We've seen him sometimes go like real kitchen sink, like a lot of pitches with at least 5 to 10% usage. Not the case in this start. This was basically, I have a 4-seam fastball that sits, about 96. I have a slider that will absolutely be death to hitters. Let's just use those 2 pitches. And that's mainly what he did. About 20% here, cutter, sinker, curveball, but for the most part, he was going 4-seam slider. And I think it was a good call. I think the slider, looking at it here, man, this thing just gave Rangers hitters fits. To have a 60% O swing on a breaking ball is kind of insane. So over 2/3 of the time, if he threw this pitch and it was outside the zone, the Rangers were still swinging. Just think about that. And that's a great thing to do, because even if they're going to make contact with it, even if they're going to put it in play, it's very likely going to be an out. I mean, it is hard to make good, solid contact. It's hard to get hits off a pitch like this. And they really weren't doing it. I mean, he earned, what do we have here? 8 whiffs over 21 swings. That's awesome. Even got 3 called strikes. Average exit velocity 86. That's awesome. That's awesome stuff here. The 4-seam fastball kind of just, it did its thing. His 4-seamer plays down for whatever reason. Maybe that's something that someone's going to have to look into. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pitchers on the Twins it seems like this is true for. But he didn't really get punished for it. Got 11 foul balls. Got 7 called strikes, actually. That's pretty high. But wasn't really getting swing and miss with it. And that was fine in this start. That's all he needed to do. And if we look at the chart here, I mean, this is gorgeous for a slider. This is lovely to see. I mean, it is tremendously difficult to locate a pitch this consistently. But Zebby did it. He really did. And this is all, I mean, you get a few balls here, but I mean, swinging strike. Please give me a swinging strike. Where is it? Foul ball. We'll take that. Swinging strike, foul, swinging strike, swinging strike. In play outs. I mean, a lot of whiffs, a lot of balls that are being put into play, but they're not going to be put into play with any sort of authority, and none of these were hits. That's exactly what you want to see. There you go. There's another out there. And then it looked like for in the zone, he was basically just, throwing heaters at him, and he didn't really get punished for it. And this is something I do wonder with him, if he's facing perhaps, let's say, a different lineup, a lineup that's not, like we mentioned before, battered to all hell, if they're going to take more advantage of this, because the Rangers really didn't. And he was able to either just get foul balls, called strikes, or not a whole lot of negative against him here. I think what's going to be interesting, possibly the next step in his evolution, if we can see more sliders stealing strikes. This is something I think Pablo Lopez is really good at. He kind of did it. He got a hit there. Looks like it wasn't that great of contact, though, so that's fine. But let's see. We got the slider. That's a called strike behind in the zone. He threw that. I think that was a miss. Called strike for a strike 3. foul ball. So not a whole lot of sliders. I would say 0-0 or behind in the count 1-0, 2-0. It's a really difficult thing to do. It's a lot to ask of a young pitcher, but I think if we're going to see him take that next step, I think that's something that he's going to have to integrate into his arsenal, being able to catch hitters off guard and steal strikes with that pitch. Again, it's something Pablo Lopez, I think, does very well. I think the Twins have a few guys who are able to do that. Now, he didn't really need to do it in the start, but I just wonder if that's another wrinkle he can add, and then that can help him become what I think he can be, which is a really good starting pitcher in this league. But anyways, I mean, we're picking nits here. This was a great start, 7 innings, like we said, 1 earned run. I mean, we take that every day of the week, and very encouraging. It was nice to see him end the season on a high note. And so then our next start here, we're going to talk about Taj Bradley the very next day, treated to back-to-back great starts. How about that? And the first thing that stuck out to me is that this was an oddly four-seam fastball heavy approach. And Taj Bradley, again, like Zebby Matthews, despite its velocity, his four-seamer doesn't really wow anyone. I think his xWOBA against it was like 380, which is really high. If you don't love seeing that. But he made it work. I kind of wonder with him and Zebby having this approach, if there was the philosophy was, hey, the Rangers have a bunch of guys who can't hit velocity fastballs. Let's just, throw it by them. I didn't look into that. Probably should have. I wonder if that was the strategy there. But anyways, there was a lot of encouraging things here for Taj as well. Something else that intrigued me was that the cutter was down a tick while the curveball was up a tick. So, and I might be reading into this too much, but I wonder if the idea here is to slow down the cutter into its own velocity band. So now you have four-seamer that's averaging 96. You have a cutter that's more, looks like 88.7. That was in this start. Overall, it's been 89.7. And then you have a splitter that's kind of splitting the difference. Against the cutter in the four-seam fastball. And then you have the curveball. So I wonder if they're trying to give him 4 distinct velocity bands here. I wonder if that was the philosophy at play here. Just something to keep an eye on, kind of interesting. Also, we have a sinker here. I don't know if that's real or if that's a missed thing. We'll kind of look at the plot. It didn't really do much. But that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that's going to augment his four-seam fastball. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to talk about here was the curveball was just absolute death. I mean, you got 9 swings, got 6 whiffs. That's absurd. Stole 2 strikes with it, 3 fouls. So they literally didn't hit this. They literally did not put a single curveball in play. And we were just ogling over Zebby's 68% O swing. He's at 64 with that pitch. It is neck and neck. He was basically as dominant with it. 30% O contact. So yeah, they weren't making contact with this pitch at all. And he got a few pretty ugly swings on it, which was very nice to see. And again, like Zebby, so I guess this probably was just the scouting report, got 10 called strikes at the four seam. So they were just letting the four seam go by. And hey, we're not going to stop you from doing that if that means we can get late into the count and then kill you with the curveball. I don't mind that at all. So let's look at the plot now. I think he just did a good job just living in the zone. I mean, again, if you're not going to get punished for living in the zone, then why not live in the zone? And then that's probably what helped turn these curveballs into, swinging strike, swinging strike, swinging strike. Wow, he let go of that one. Swinging strikes. That's 4 whiffs there. There was another pretty bad one. Where was it? Right there. Swinging strike. So just, death down here. I mean, if it was down here and it was a curveball and you're a Rangers hitter, you're probably walking back to the dugout. And I think a lot of it is because he was showing the fastball. He was showing the cutter in the zone. They had to respect it. And this is what happens when you have to respect it and you're not able to jump on a guy's fastball early enough. So he ended up with, 9 strikeouts over 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run. I think it was a home run, walked 2 guys. I mean, that's a great outing. That's a wonderful outing from Taj. And I think he looks to be maybe not a project, but I think there's a lot of clay here that the Twins are going to need to mold with him. But I see some sort of vision. I think if they can figure out how to get more starts like this, where the four seam fastball is getting him into advantageous counts, and maybe that's augmenting with the sinker. At the end of the day, he needs to get into these advantageous counts because he has that curveball, which has just been deadly all year, but was especially deadly in this start. That's a great pitcher right there. That's a great pitcher. Easier said than done, to steal strikes early in the count. But here he did it. Here he got 9 strikeouts against a major league team. Very encouraging. Speaking of 9 strikeouts and encouraging, last start we're going to talk about here is Mick Abel. This was yesterday. I'm recording this on Sunday. This was a Saturday start against his old team, the Phillies. So I wonder if he was a little amped up for that. And he just obliterated them. 6 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. This was by far his best outing in a Twins uniform. This was probably his best outing as a professional this year. Just really, really impressive. And the first thing that sticks out, and I saw Tom Froming pointed this out in his video on Mick Abel, was that the four-seam fastball rate was only 32%. I think overall on the season it was something like 44%. So, even though this is a big fastball, again with velocity, it's played down so far. And I wonder if this was a conscious adjustment of just being like, hey, you got the velocity, but hitters are just hitting it for whatever reason. So let's cut back on it. And the trade-off was that then this fastball was just extremely, extremely effective. To see 43% called strike whiff percentage on a four-seam fastball is incredible. That's just absurdly high. You don't see it that high, like almost ever. And so I wonder if that was just it. He had 6 legitimate pitches that Phillies hitters had to consider, so that the few times he did throw the fastball, and by the way, I think it was up. Yeah, he was even up a tick. So he topped out at 98.9, averaged 97. It really got on him, and there wasn't much they could do about it. They swung it at 13 times, whiffed 6 times. That's awesome. Stole 4 strikes as well. That's great. Only 2 foul balls, 5 balls in play, average at 81.1. That's elite. That's really, really good. It's super encouraging to see this from any pitcher, much less a pitcher this young, to just completely, utterly dominate with a pitch like this. And I think, like I said before, it's largely because they had to consider the changeup, which wasn't outstanding, but it was there. They had to consider the curveball, which did well. They had to consider the slider, which did well. Shit, even the sinker did pretty well. Why not? The only pitch that didn't really do anything was the sweeper, and that's fine because he only threw 3 of them. They had to contend with 4 other pitches that were probably going to be either for strikes or were going to be looking like strikes, and that's hard for any major league lineup, yet alone one that's as good as the Phillies. So what else did we have here? I think we're going to look at the plot here. Just did a great job. I think these curveballs, that's exactly where you want them. I think that's probably been his best pitch so far. And he just located them super well. Got some pretty absurd swings. Not that one, but that one against Alec Boehm. See you later, buddy. Got some other pretty good ones. Yeah, that one against Harrison Bader. That one against Bryce Harper. That's a pretty good hitter to get swinging at a curveball like that. Just awesome location. Even the changeups that were thrown were. It wasn't the best, but we'll say it was pretty good for a young pitcher. That's always a developing pitch for most pitchers. Left a few of them up, but didn't get punished. And then the four seamers pretty much just belt high and above, which is great. It should have probably even gotten a strike on that one. And that I think is what helped the four seamer play up. Again, with the velocity, you're throwing 97 at the belt and higher, and you're throwing curves down here. You've got even changeups that are doing pretty well here, and the sliders are a bit scattershot, but hey, it worked. I think he got a few, called strike there. I think this one, there was another one I thought. That'll work. That'll work really well, especially when you're throwing 5 pitches or 6 pitches, whatever it was, like a decent amount of the time. You're going to keep hitters off balance, and so this was a really encouraging start for Abel. I think that's going to be potentially going forward the blueprint for letting the four-seamer play up, is if these other pitches can just do like a little bit. And if he can just offer them enough as strikes. It's going to keep hitters off balance. And then that's when you come in with the four-seam fastball. That's when you're going to be blowing the doors off people. So awesome starts all around. Very encouraged by what we saw out of these guys. I think all of them are going to be important contributors going forward, especially if the rumors do come true that potentially Joe Ryan and or Pablo Lopez are dealt. I would hate to see that. Obviously, but it's going to put an importance on these young guys, and they have a lot of them. And if they pitch like this, then hey, they might be doing pretty well, actually. So I think during the offseason, we'll probably break down some of these guys even more, talk about maybe specifically why some guys forcing fastballs play down, why some guys should probably start thinking about throwing fewer pitches, why some guys can continue to throw maybe 6 or 7 pitches. There's just a lot to talk about. And there's a lot to consider about pitching. I find it so fascinating. I love thinking about pitching. I love talking about pitching. So thank you for joining me on our last episode of the season for Starting Pitcher Review, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.